Welcome to the Afrimerican Academy's Culture to Thrive podcast, where we dive into the rich tapestry of cultural diversity, equity, and inclusion with a focus on African American experiences from art to food, traditions. We analyze it all and we celebrate culture in all its forms. So drop what you're doing, tune in, and join us as we nurture the culture to thrive on the Culture to Thrive podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Culture to Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Marlon Solomon, and I'm here to, with an exciting episode today. We've got two great young ladies here joining us. We've got Ebony Gill and Chanel Thurville, and so we're going to get started with a great event. How you doing, ladies?
Excited to be here.
Lovely, lovely. Yes, we're excited to have you. It's a bit cold out here in these streets, but what can we say? You know. So I'm gonna quickly go over. All right. So today our subject is really great. It's about art and activism, right? These two concepts, while they seem maybe a little bit far apart, they're actually interwoven in so many ways. And we have two unique artists in their own respects from different genres, and we're going to have a great discussion today about art and activism. But before we get started, I wanted to make sure that you guys know this event is part of the Boston Redline 87 Black History Month event series, which is an event series that we do marking the 87th anniversary of the Boston Redline map, which was on February 1st. Wow, same as Black History Month. So I guess we got something to do every month. And we have a series of events, workshops, walking tours all across Boston where we show you the history of African Americans in Boston as well as the infrastructural history and letting you know how the displacement and the many things that have gone on in our communities have affected us up to today. So please get on the QR codes, go to our Instagram, social media, and you'll see all the information there. But please stay tuned because there's a lot of good work, even community action work where we're putting together petitions, a symposium, documentary screening, you name it. So we look forward to seeing you at the next Boston Redline 87 event. All right. So a lot of this work we're going around, we're doing. This is our work in terms of art and activism. I practice and develop what we call restorative project management. And when I design things in this project management, I use cultural artifacts as a major component to whatever I'm doing. It just helps me build community, repair harm, and promote inclusivity all at the same time. So this last year, we commissioned the Rise Above Redlining portrait with Daphne Walker, who of Canvas Studio Boston, and she made this beautiful portrait. And it's just right behind me there, if you can squeeze and see it. And it is been going. It's a traveling piece of art. It's been going around multiple places in Boston. And when I have a workshop, I get my audience to select a word. Our lovely guests today are going to be adding two more words to the portrait. So we're very excited about that. So without further ado, enough of me already. Real quick, sorry. Next week, as far as our culture, diversity, equity, and inclusion work that we do here, we are giving away, as usual, a free DNA test from African ancestry to help African Americans to learn about their African heritage. Giovanni and Winston won the last two, and we are looking for a new person. So if you're interested, there's the QR code. Hit that. Go and sign up. The deadline is Friday, so you've got a few more days to sign up, and we're going to be announcing our finalists on a week from today. So stay tuned for that. And now I'm going to let enough of me and let us hear from our two lovely guests. So welcome, ladies, once again, now that I've got through the spiel. So, we just want, before we get started, I want all the audience to know more about you guys. I think both of you are amazing. Um, and I just want people to understand the work that you do. So, I don't know, anybody can go first. I guess, Ebony, if you would like to go first, I
Yeah.
can. Right.
Yeah, my name is Ebony Gill. I'm the creator of the platform Boston Urban Archive. I'm a journalist. I research, I write, and I connect with the community of Boston.
Right. Tell us about, okay, we see you here. I'm going to put you on blast.
No, no.
Tell us about this. What happened here?
Yeah, I the community engagement manager of the Boston Celtics had reached out to me, letting me know that I was nominated for the Heroes Among Us award in the city of Boston by the Celtics. So
Whoa.
we had a meeting, and I ended up getting the award. So it was a really cool experience. Yeah, I was
Wonderful.
brought to TD Garden, and they gave me like a tour, and then they gave me the award with my trophy in the middle of the court during the game. So
Nice.
it was pretty
Wow.
exciting
Well,
for
I
sure.
bleed green, so go Celtics. And I'm very
Yeah.
happy that
Mhm.
you're able to get that award. Because I think I've called you this before, because I meet special people along my journey, and I
Mm.
always give them their flowers. And I always said you've been a hero since I seen your work. I've just like been captivated by it. Can you describe a little bit about your work, like in particular, like or any special, maybe a post you'd like me to play? I always like these ones of like our people
Yeah,
like
the old clips, the film. Yeah, the
right.
film clips are definitely the most popular. So yeah, I look at old, documentaries, the 10 o'clock news clips, whatever shows are running on programs in the 70s, 80s, 90s, anything that really connects to the city. I kind of just watch and try to gather cool clips that I think people would, relate to.
Oh,
Um, I
look
go to
at that
a lot of,
outfit. Sorry, that
yeah,
outfit.
I know.
They are doing it.
Yeah.
Oh
But it's so
man.
funny. I love the comments because people were saying how they used to get these outfits. They're all custom made. There would always be that like tailor in the neighborhood that they would all go to get their
Right,
outfits created. And I'm like, nowadays no one's doing custom outfits like that.
right, right,
The
right,
fashions are
Yeah,
fashioning.
yeah,
right. Well, that's awesome. So anyway, I just think like I said, I think your work is always spectacular. I've actually learned so much from you, especially the Grove Hall. You're everywhere.
mhm.
All the sporting events, but
Yeah.
especially the one about Fern Williams, what's her
Fern
Cunningham,
Cunningham.
Fern Cunningham, and
Yeah.
she had she has many sculptures around the city that people don't recognize,
Mhm.
and I just once I learned about her, and especially around um, the statue that was in front of the former Grove Hall um, library. I thought that was just
I believe that's the first video right there. I pinned it.
this
It's the one
one.
in the top right. Yep, that's it right there.
Oh wow. Yes, and it was vandalized apparently. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
It's such a beautiful thing. And you like so now when I go around, one of my students, after you came to our summer program,
Mhm.
she goes and she just looks at one right there in Roxbury.
Mhm.
And she goes, that's from the lady that Miss Ebony told us about. And I'm
Mhm.
like, Lisa, you're like brilliant because as soon as she said it, I knew exactly before she got the words, I knew exactly what she was gonna say. And she was right.
Yeah.
We looked at me, yeah. So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
awesome.
Mhm.
Right. Now without next we've got Miss Chanel Thurville. Ooh. I just
Mhm.
like your
Yes.
artistic stuff. Tell us
Thank
about
you.
yourself. Tell us about your work.
Yes, my name is Chanel Thurville. I'm a Haitian American artist, professor, teacher. I really love doing work that revolves around showcasing the beauty and the diversity of people of color. Of course, I have a special soft spot for showcasing the beauty of Black women. But overall, in the types of things that I like to do for my work, I make portraits, murals, installations. I've also done some social practice work that involves the use of affirmations and gifting pieces of artwork to the community. So that's something that's really important to me, just using art to showcase our uniqueness and our beauty.
Fantastic, fantastic. I know it was on another thing where you had the nature and nurture. I thought that was so powerful because of the work that I do in regards to like, so like a lot of my work I say design for culture because actually, our living spaces and dwelling spaces are supposed to be designed for our culture, and what usually
Yeah.
happens is the people who are designing our communities are not from our culture. So it's like expecting somebody to design a dance floor for it just won't work because they don't. It's not part of their makeup, their cultural makeup. So the nature and nurture part has a lot of power to it because while there is nature, the nurture part is really means how do we interact through our environment. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, thank you for that
And
compliment. It's nice to know that my work continues to resonate with people. I'd say overall, because I'm an artist who really thinks deeply about being intentional when it comes to the types of relationships I'm building with community, it's always important to me to make sure that I'm doing things that add as opposed to subtract from people. I'm always thinking about ways that I can give as opposed to taking. And I think a lot of what aligns with my training as an educator is thinking deeply about the ways that I can have people share their stories and be vulnerable and then translate that into an affirmation or translate that into an artwork. So the one you're showing now is actually a series of affirmations that I put on these planters that I did that's right outside of the Ashmont station. So I
nice.
partnered with the Greater Ashmont Main Streets to put affirmations out in Creole, Haitian Creole,
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese, English, and Spanish because those are the most spoken languages in Boston. So all of the planters have affirmations and things that
Fantastic.
are like, you're strong, you're courageous, you're beautiful, you're loved. Like these are all positive messages that we're blessing the community with. So when you go on your commute to the Ashmont station, hopefully you see an affirmation that makes you feel good.
I've
Right.
actually
Oh,
seen those. To know that you did that, that's amazing. That's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah, woo.
Hmm.
no, I think I both of you are pretty amazing. Like I just don't pick anybody, guys. These you guys. So no, this is awesome. This is really awesome. So oops, we're not there yet. So let me just readjust this and let us get to our discussion piece. So ladies, I am, like I said, I'm very excited to have you guys here. And of course, I want to have a lovely conversation where we're all, just kind of vibing off each other. But the first question that I have for you guys to, that we should talk about real briefly is art and storytelling have a power to preserve history and inspire change, which is what a lot of work I'm trying to get involved with, especially when it comes to like cultural infrastructure, like the Fern Will Cunningham statues, um, and of course murals and all these other things that make up the environment that kind of condition us. So, how does your works like amplify the voices of the marginalized communities? I think that is so important.
Yeah, I think one parallel that I noticed right off the back is that Ebony and I both are very observant people. So I think that being observant, that quality of just being an attentive listener and an active listener, or in your case, an active watcher of these great videos that you're finding, it starts with that, just like the intention of deciding to move forward with a sense of care and a sense of intentionality. I would say in my personal practice as an artist, I think a lot about ways that I can allow people a moment of release. So if there's something that they're holding on to that they really need to let go of, I offer them the opportunity to do that through art making or through an interview so that they can have a little cathartic moment. Um, and that translates into the stories that then are told through the actual works, like the portraits or the affirmations.
Hmm. Yeah, and similarly for me, I feel like that moment for me is when I can bring a sense of community and nostalgia to people. When I highlight a story or a person that has never really been, highlighted onto such a huge platform, or maybe even in the last 30 years, and people see that and relate to it. Um, these stories that maybe haven't been told, the lack of representation that's like suddenly coming to the forefront on this platform, and everyone in the city gets to see it and engage. I love sort of bringing that like feeling and sense of community and recognition. Mm,
No, it makes lots of sense. And similarly, I feel the same way that, like making sure that communities are heard is so important. And when they don't feel heard, then there's this apathy that sets in over time, and then we don't have the kind of robust, fully realized, thriving culture in our communities because
mm,
well, why am I talking if nobody is going to listen to me? Why am I expressing? And any sort of dampening of any sort of expression, no matter what it is, has that effect. And that's why we have to amplify voices because, as you know, the climate going on right now is they're trying to take it out for the final, like this is the final shot. They're trying to take it all out now. No DEI, removal of history and culture.
yeah.
And anyway, I think of it to be so important. I did a tour of Roxbury area where probably, and it's history because there's no tour like this that takes you around. I told my people, the people that came, I go, you're about to be on a tour that half the things don't longer exist.
Mhm,
And they're like, those are silenced voices,
mhm.
that they have to, contend with. So, no, I think that that's great. Any other things you want to add to that, or something that resonates with you? What I said? No?
I think a lot about, especially because of what's happening in our political climate too, when it comes to storytelling, we have to be really cautious about who is the storyteller that we're choosing to listen to. And I think what's exciting about both of our bodies of work is that we're making efforts to uplift voices of people that we know have been here that haven't been recognized.
Right.
And I think that that's something to also continue to make efforts to do if you're someone who's interested in seeing the uniqueness in everyone, the good in everyone, and all the power and wisdom that can be generated through the generations as you pay attention to people.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. Completely agree with that. All right. So we'll go on to the next little subject. So the Rise Above Redlining portrait was born out of workshops and community participants. How do you involve the community in your own projects, and what impact does that collaboration have?
Yeah, so for me, I contact the community directly. When I do my research, I'll read an article in the newspaper, I'll find some names, and a lot of the times, what I've noticed is everyone is still around, and if they're not, their family is. If it's not their family, then it's old friends who will recognize them or the name of the story. So I really want to be accurate in telling the story or portraying the story that I'm trying to tell. So I reach out to people directly and I introduce myself, kind of tell them what I do. And then usually they'll give me, more information just so that the story that I'm telling is more clear. And that, yeah, I just want to bring something that's authentic and genuine. So I try to go right to the source if I can. And then on top of that, I also read all of the comments and all the DMs that I get because I learn from the community. I learn from everyone. And they'll add to my story. Um, they'll give me additional names, additional information, and then from there I can just further the research. So I'm very attentive, and I definitely try to speak to people directly.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. I think when it comes to my practice, I feel like the things that I do with community are very collaborative because they're also like offering me something that I can use to make the artwork. So sometimes that looks like doing photo sessions where I can get reference photos of people. And when I do those photo sessions, they often get interviewed or we're having conversations similar to these about things that matter to them, things that keep them up at night, things that make them feel good. And I use a lot of that as research for my making. So
Mm-hmm.
having more of a intimate connection with community is something that just makes the work all that much more like enriching, I guess.
Yeah.
And it also makes it more meaningful to the people who essentially are volunteering to be subjects of my artwork.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the art history space, we know that there's not a lot of people of color present in terms of how they choose to have their representation made of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a long, long history of just only showing people of color in positions of servitude. And I think when I decided I wanted to do art as a main life goal, I was like, okay, I'm not interested in black pain. I'm not interested in positions of servitude. Like, I'm interested in the dignity of each individual that I'm talking to. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to make that the main, the thing that I center when I'm making portraits or making artwork that involves community.
I love those answers, and I've already, I do that because I always like, so I'm an engineer. I do a lot of different things that have nothing to do with engineering, and I always tell people that the best project managers know what they don't know, and ask people that do know how to, what to do. So that's my philosophy. So even like in my documentary, it's not. I'd say it's about 90-95% ready, and I'm literally screening it with a very nice, QR code with the form and the feedback because I need that, right? A lot of the work that I've done, unfortunately, there is no record. I actually have to interview people and go to their homes. I interviewed Reverend Chauncey Moore, 100-year-old resident of Roxbury. I mean, his walls, y'all, is like the history of my people. You know what I'm saying? He's got pictures of everything. Like, I mean, it's crazy. So, I mean, I think, as artists, even though I wouldn't say I'm primarily an artist, but I know I do artwork. That's what we do. We channel the energy from different parts of the community, and we're just like, reflecting, or what we've absorbed, of course, and putting it out in our way. But nonetheless, it is. I tell people all the time, my organization stopped being like the work. They're like, "Oh, great work you're doing." I'm like, my work's ended like literally 2 years ago. It is literally just carrying on different stuff, carrying on different information, like the Fern Cunningham that I got from Ebony, and now I'm teaching kids and going there. So is that my information? No, I got it from Ebony. That's why I got it. So it's a culmination. So I think that that's when you're really being true and authentic, because what do we all both as individuals really know? We know a very small portion of life, and but if we're good artists, we're able to soak in stuff from all corners and all areas and be able to communicate it in a way, like I tell my young people, we do old things in new ways. That's our job.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think that's awesome. uh, okay, so the next item, just trying to run through this. We're doing pretty good. So Eve, which is, I actually created Eve initially on AI images. So I have a bunch of images off of, actually no, it's the other way around. Daphne created the lady, as just part of the picture, and I named her Eve.
Ooh.
And I created a bunch of. So what I did for my symposium in September was I created a bunch of AI images of just this black woman in all sorts of scenarios, so that just for the imagery of the event, so it would all be tied in, and you know and then when you come back to put pictures on the words on the wall, okay, it's been part of the theme, right? And then that's how she took on a life of her own. But she does represent like a motherly voice of activism, because in the end of the day, we all got our name from a woman and our game from a woman to quote. And it's about protection. It's about sternness. As you know, the African American woman is the backbone of all of our families, and dads are just paying rent and getting the big piece of chicken on Sundays. But the person that's running the show, we already know who that is. So, how does that kind of like theme of protection, resistance, strength, all the things that Eve kind of represents, how does that come off in your work?
Ooh, that's a good one. Hmm.
I think my initial thought is to also thinking about the last question too. I feel like I'm thinking a lot about just like the wisdom of the elders. I was raised by my grandmother, and I think that definitely
Mm,
shapes the way that I walk through the world and the way that I interact with people and the way that I just like listen to my elders. I think that there's part of the generational wealth that we have as people of color is from our elders and the things that they choose to share with us. And especially hearing that you like spent time with that 100-year-old reverend, like that's awesome because you're gleaning in that protection from him and also that like wisdom as well. And I think for me personally, when I think about things that have helped me get to the next level or things that have helped me through hard times, it's been my grandmother's prayers, it's been the words of wisdom I've gotten from mentors who are also elders, and just thinking about their continued resistance and resilience through generations is something that really feels like it just helps you through.
Hmm.
fantastic. Yeah, Ebony?
Yeah. The word that sticks out to me in the question is, protection. And for me, especially as someone who has gotten, this like recognition for this platform and things like that, I feel it's really important for me, and I think for any person who wants to take on a role like this, that connects with the community and engages with the community, that it's important for us to be genuine in our purpose. And I think how I do my platform, I try to do it in a very, tasteful way. Um, I do it in a sense of like, I think responsible sort of like journalism. I'm not giving my opinion. I'm just kind of like reporting what was going on, giving some like context, because, I want to protect people's legacies, like people's families that are seeing these um, post, and I want to protect this image of Boston that I'm trying to portray, which is like this underrepresented Black, Caribbean, diverse community that the city has. So I take it really serious that I want everyone who I'm posting and that are seeing it, that like I'm genuinely trying to do this like the right way. I think in the day of like social media, people will do a lot of things just like for views. There's a lot of clips that I could post just to get some views and get attention, but I intentionally do it this way, because I want to be genuine and like responsible with getting this diverse Boston represented correctly. Mhm.
Right. What you said, actually, this is not part of the question, but I just feel like, one of the things that I
Mhm.
find in the protection piece is that we need actually some opinions, educated
Mhm.
opinions from people who have done the research, because that's one of the issues, right? If we are um, being marginalized and we are being denied education, or like we can't act like, okay, we are all like there is damage being done to our communities, and we have to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
And as people who are blessed to be in positions where we are can reach out and do the research, and we have these
Mhm.
platforms, I do think that may and everybody's angle is
Mhm.
different, but from my point of view, where I'm dealing with engineering terms and things that with development, like you know I don't even know which one to use as an example, but basically there are a lot of things that have been, they're lies that are being told to our community, and our community has bought it hook, line, and
Mhm.
sinker for so long that that's their truth
Mhm.
now. But we all know to solve a problem, you must properly define it. So if you're defining a problem based on faulty
Mhm.
information, then you never get any
Right.
headway. So I guess as a side thing, just like because I do think that those of us who have, like, we're the diamonds in the rough, that have luckily, because it could have been anybody, but it happened to be
Mhm.
us, and we've kind of broken through from some of these stereotypes, and we're now on a bigger platform. I do think, what do you guys say to having to really do give your opinion, because your opinion is actually more, I don't want to, it's not better in any per se,
Mhm.
but it is more informed,
Yeah.
right? It is really going with the history you've done. This is what you do. You look at the
Mhm.
archive. This is what I do. I, look at all the research.
Mhm.
This is what you do. You've done all the education and understanding what different communities are talking about and putting it into art. And so this is what, and that professionalism sometimes is not recognized,
Mhm.
not appreciated. Like, what do you know that I don't know, right? That kind
Mhm.
of thing. So, what would you say in regards to having, like, making your opinion, your more informed opinions, more known, or
Yeah,
like,
so I think for example, when it comes to this, sort of like how I use just like information and facts to, like tell the story is I posted a clip. It reminds me of when you were talking about how you don't necessarily want to like amplify like black pain in your art. Like you're
Mhm.
looking at things with dignity. So there's a clip that I actually posted in the 70s, and it is um Carson Beach, and it's full. I was trying to look it up to see. I don't know if you might want to pull it up, but it's Carson Beach, and it's a beautiful like sunny day in the summertime, and the Black community went to the beach, and they were all having a good time. There were children, families, grandmothers, and I saw the clip and I'm like, this is beautiful. How I edited it was I threw on a song. So when you watch this video, it just looks like Black families at Carson Beach in South Boston,
Oh,
having a great time. However, the full clip, you can actually see the police are barricading all of the Black people on Carson Beach. And behind the police barricade is the white community of South Boston screaming at them, wanting them to leave, and things like
right,
that. So when I posted the video, you get this feeling like it's nostalgia. It's, Black people on a beach having a good time in the summer. Like it gives you that feeling. But then in the caption, I put like, this is the actual context of this video, this beautiful clip and this experience that they're having. Like this is the day that they wanted. But unfortunately, if you look, and I think even in the clip that I posted, because you can't really avoid it, you can see I think there was like a Black couple walking down the beach, and then you can see like a police officer behind them a little bit, and it was because they kind of
right.
had to be like followed around because of the white community in South Boston that didn't really want them to be there. So
I'm
in the
looking for it
caption, I
right
put,
now. I'm
yeah,
looking for it right now, but I can't find it. But just send me the
um,
link. And sure.
yeah, I remember the like the still that shows up on the page. It looks like a little girl like kicking water like on the beach,
ooh.
and it should be a little further down.
Okay. All right. Keep on. Yeah. So, no, I get it. I'll find it. If I find it, I'll post it up. I just wanted to see. Because no, actually, I'm glad you said that. And you see,
Mhm.
like, for me, and it's not about really black joy. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I
Yeah.
think I just have the perspective that our people,
Mhm.
right, need to, like, a lot of young people don't know that Carson Beach was like out of bounds for black people, for black
Right,
people.
right.
So I think that is where, when they're there,
Mhm.
they would appreciate it more if they knew that just a generation or so ago they were not allowed to be there. They had to go to actually, the full story. They had to go to Nantucket or Nantasket. That was where black people were allowed to go to the beach. So you had to drive from Boston, it was about an hour or
Mhm.
so, to Nantasket to go to the beach,
Mhm.
right? So I really, I don't know. I mean, like I said, just different opinion. What people, you know,
Yeah.
feel
And
like
it's,
it's
there's
important.
just there's just different ways to like, post it, like, because with that, even though that was the focus, I still acknowledged it, in the caption, and gave that,
Right,
background of like what was really going on in the scene. But then there was another video that I posted when the Boston Housing Authority admitted to their practice of not allowing Black residents into certain projects, and they were on a long wait list, knowing that there were apartments available, like in South Boston. Like I posted that clip, and like, you know, that clip is a lot more direct than the other one. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
There was no hiding that. That was just the straight news report. So I feel like there's some clips that are a little bit more like straightforward
right,
about, topics like this, and then others, I'll explain more like in the caption.
right.
So
No, I mean,
yeah.
I think it's all great work. I don't want it to be as if I'm trying to, but I just, like I said, everybody has their own different, like, what are you trying to communicate in that little piece, right? And
Right.
that's where it goes.
Yeah.
Uh, Chanel, do you want to add anything before we go to the next?
Yeah, I think in response to what both of you said, what really rings true to me is that when you're educated, you have a responsibility to be a truth teller because you've done the research, you've done the work, and you also want to make sure that you're not just hoarding all the knowledge
Hmm.
for yourself.
Mm,
So it's important to remember to keep that as the focal point, like telling the truth in what you're doing. And I think the way that I've seen that show up in my practice as a creative is the truth gets told as I interact with community because we're sharing our stories, we're being vulnerable, we're being open, and you're also getting history. I think we're a society that's very focused on just like text, like documents, like is it a book, is it an article, is it a newspaper? But the reality is oral traditions is the oldest form of history
Hmm.
telling and truth telling that we have.
right,
So it's important to give value to people who you wouldn't necessarily credit as an
Hmm.
authority, so that there's more of an opportunity to have the truth told.
right. That actually kind of goes into our next question, actually. Like, what role do you think art and archives play in confronting systemic inequities?
Oh
Uh,
wow, that was like a oh
Right, right,
infinity one.
right. Like those calls by redlining. I mean, and I think, what I think the most important thing, especially because I'm an educator of young people, and I think, and I'm quoting Bob Marley, but it's like, who it teaches who you are and where you stand in the struggle, because that's the thing about history, right? It's connecting us to the work of our
Hmm.
ancestors, so we'll know, okay, well, we've already accomplished this. I don't need to start again from scratch. I'm just picking up, standing on the shoulders of, you know, of our ancestors. So I think that is something that I know that my work, I try to make sure, because I see a lot of kids and like they're just doing stuff. And like, like there's no way I can understand using the N word in any kind of friendly sense, right? And because I know the history of the word, I know how it's made, it's objectifying. Now, people say it, everybody has a right to say what they want to say. I cannot get around my head around that. And I still find it, but I always look at that as an example of, you don't know your history. And if you knew your history, you would probably not, if you underappreciated what that actually meant, you probably won't be saying it. But that's just like I said, my judgment, my opinion. But yeah, I don't know what you guys, what you ladies have to say to that.
Um, I think art and archives, it's just, another medium. I think that Some people, prefer to, read history books. Some people prefer, art and painting and drawing, and they can connect to that a little bit better. Some people prefer when I post articles, and some people really enjoy like the film. So I think that it just allows, more, just more mediums for people to get their information in their history.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a big nerd, so I like I like the idea of being able to have access to archives and using that as a way to just create new things that make people excited about their
Mhm.
history.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm a big nerd too. Don't mind me. I try to say I'm a cool nerd, but that's subject to debate. All right. So, can you share a specific moment when your work directly sparked dialogue or change in the community?
Ooh, okay, I can go first. I guess um back in 2019, in the great before the Rona came around,
Right.
I had a artist residency with the Urbano Project. And what was really awesome about that residency is that they allowed me the opportunity to create a solo exhibition of work about any social justice topic of my choosing. So I decided to do a body of work about how Black millennials experience racism in Boston. So to do my research, I essentially did a casting call. I was like, hey, if you're Black and you're a millennial and you've experienced racism in Boston, like DM me. I put out a call on
Mhm.
Instagram, and I was able to get some friends and some new acquaintances into my studio to photograph them and interview them about their experiences that they had. So I ended up creating a 9 portrait series of installations that included the visuals of the people and also the audio of the interviews that I had as a part of the work. So that exhibition sparked a ton of dialogue. I had the opening around Black History Month as well in 2019. So it got a lot of press from the Globe, the Banner. And what was really impactful to me, something that I still hold on to, is that I created this space in the installation where people could write their feedback on what they were learning about themselves or what they were learning about just in general through experiencing the work and listening to the audio of these interviews. And a lot of people were saying things like, I'm a Chinese immigrant and I was always told to fear Black people, and now I'm reconsidering where that idea
Mhm.
came from. Or I'm a Boston public school teacher and this made me realize that I need to work harder to support my Black students in my
Mhm.
classes.
Mm,
Or this made me think about how ridiculous racism is and how it's really not helping or serving anyone.
mm.
So there were all these really wonderful pieces of feedback that made me feel like, okay, like I'm starting the conversations I want to start, and like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as an artist. Like there's true alignment in not just my intention and my values, but also in the work that I'm producing
Mhm.
too. And I think as a creative, or as anyone who's just interested in doing a public good, you have to make that intentionality piece the center of what you're doing.
Mhm.
Right. 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 Wow, that's
Mhm.
powerful. You speak publicly? You do public speaking?
I do
Yeah, because
sometimes.
I'm
You
like,
could tell.
keep it going. But we don't have it. Ebony, did you wanna
Yeah.
add?
For me, on social media, I've definitely noticed just this page existing and the content existing. I've had people who are Black and living in another major city considering going to school here come to the page to see and learn about like the Black history and Black presence in Boston. So I'm finding I'm connecting with a lot of people outside of the city and state that kind of want to know what's going on here, if they're going to travel here or come to school or a job. Um, I have had people who are considering moving here. I remember this one man messaged me and he was like, "Thank you for all this. We're considering moving to Boston. So this is really nice for me and my wife to see." And I think as far as like the post, one of my biggest connections, and I think something that definitely sparked dialogue, and I recently mentioned this in the piece that I did with the Globe, was when I had posted a clip of these children um, in Franklin Park when they were playing at the basketball court. A reporter had asked them if Boston puts in a curfew in effect, are they going to abide by it? And it was because there was a spark in violence at the time, and the mayor was considering putting a curfew in place for the kids to get off the streets, but especially the teenagers. And there's a clip where these young boys, because the teenagers didn't want to talk to the reporters, were like, oh, we're probably not going to abide by it, but we're just going to be out here playing basketball with our friends. Like, we don't get involved with like the big boys, the teenagers that are doing all the bad stuff. And I posted the clip, and I got a ton of comments and messages saying, rest in peace, emo, rest in peace, emo. So I had DM'd some of the people who commented that, and I was like, hey, can you just tell me which little boy is emo, so I know who you're talking about. And then some of his family members ended up messaging me saying that, yeah,
What?
that he, emo, in that clip, I was just doing the math. In that clip, he was 9. And then a few years later, when he was 16, he ended up getting killed from gun violence in that same neighborhood. So for
Oh
me,
my
Oh,
God.
yeah, and
wow.
it really it made me honestly like emotional, because you watch this clip and you see this little boy talking, and it's really about the issue of like gun violence in that community. And then later on, he's a victim of it, and his family. And again, it's like that clip didn't portray any of that. So, and his name wasn't listed, so it's like, everyone is getting a kick out of this clip, but then there's so much backstory to this. So
Of course.
then his aunt ended up reaching out to me and was saying, thank you so much for posting that clip. Um, my grandma it was nice for my grandma to hear his voice after all of these years. So then that, hit me emotionally too, because I can only imagine. Especially given what ended up happening to him later. And then from there, I started like looking into his case and like more about him. I was reading all these articles about how he was as a teenager. So in a sense, I felt really connected to emo after looking into his case and talking to his family and everything. And then so that's actually something that I mentioned in the Globe, and I think it was definitely a reminder for me, that again, like, taking responsibility for like the work that I'm putting out. Like, this is an emotional investment, and like, to the community and to the people. So yeah,
No,
that
that's
hit home for
awesome.
me.
No, I mean, I've never even thought about like it just one. I don't even know what to
Yeah.
say. That's very heavy
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm not gonna really talk too much about this. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna say that a lot of the work that I'm doing around cultural hubs has really been changing the narrative around how people are looking at equitable design, and so I know that has been changed even from the displacement. The city's been saying how they're trying to displace, well, they're trying to develop, but they don't mention that you can't develop without displacement. So what protections do you need to put forward? So that's the main thing that I would say. So anyway, let us. I know we have about a few more minutes. I have two more questions, so I will try to keep it short myself. So, but what are the challenges of using art or archives as a tool for activism, and how do you overcome them? What challenges do you face using your work to, like, make a point?
I would say funding is a big piece of it. I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this political climate, if you're an artist who has something to say about a social issue, that can be very risky and scary.
Mm-hmm.
And artists are people who are got bills just like you, and I think that often they get the short end of the stick, or they often get kind of like pushed to the side because they're just like, oh, you're making something beautiful, like you're doing it because you really want to, and that should be enough. But it's like, nope, I have bills to pay just like everybody else, and it costs money to create art. Buying those supplies, the investment of time to do the ideation for your
Mm-hmm.
idea, to then go out and talk with community, to then go and find a studio space to make your work, to then buying the supplies, to then making the work. And one thing that I've started to do as an artist is that I've started to pay community members as a thank you for their contributions to like supporting
Right.
my work in this way. So all of that stuff, it's a labor of love, yes, and it is creating something beautiful, yes, but it also costs both time and money. And trying to find funding to cover what you're doing as an artist is really, really difficult
Hmm.
still.
Right. I agree.
Yeah,
Ebony?
agree. Um, I would say also accessibility for me. I do have access to, I think, a lot more just like through my university and like other outlets, and I've definitely been networking ever since creating this. So I have some access to some pretty cool things, but there's a lot more that I'm trying to see, and um, not everything is digital. So I'm trying to find my way to like certain institutions to be able to access some things, and even online. Again, like just costs, like even online to access some things, it costs money. So um, yeah, I feel like some historic documents and a lot of these archives, I feel like they're so privatized, and it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like you're just trying to like learn history or find out some things, and it can be a little bit difficult. You have to go through a lot of different channels to get information.
Right. No,
Hmm.
I agree with both of you guys. In fact, I'm going to kind of amalgamate both of them together because um, we have to, like, one of the problems that we face as, African Americans or people of culture, anything you want, however you want to define it, is that our equity is being funded by white liberalism.
Hmm.
And that is the dynamic that we have to navigate, because if you're too far off on if you're too far supporting your community, speaking it like it is, talking, really being straightforward, you're going to alienate funders.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, if you're
Yeah.
too close to the funders, right, then you'll be sounded, then you won't be getting any connection, any authenticity, or people won't be listening to you in the community. So you have, this is the dichotomy that
Hmm.
we have to navigate, and it pops up. Of course, it pops up in funding and opportunities, but also an documentary. I had to ask the Boston Athenaeum, PWI, for permission to use Alan Rohan Kreit's work in my documentary. That is, I think, synopsis of all. So this is like some of the most deep, for people who don't know, he's an African American artist that did some great street scenes about Boston. And I had to now go to outside my community to ask them for permission to use from something that's from my community.
Hmm.
That goes to the access piece. Even though I know he donated it there, um, but I would also say it's because there was no place to donate it to in our communities. I know of people that are scouring a lot of older places, older people's homes to try and get some of this information. But is it stored right? Is it, can we access it? So those two things, funding and access, I think they go hand in hand. So now the last question that I would like to ask. If there was one message that you want your work to leave behind for future generations, what would it be? Yeah, y'all. Hey, audience, I give them this question, so it's still a hard question.
You trying to stump us? That's
No, I
exactly
didn't
what
try
it
to
is.
stump y'all. But well, I mean, I guess for me, I think the message I just want to say is that for me is just stand, like be fearless. I think that's the only
Hmm.
thing. Everything else I think comes down to all this talent and great. You have to be fearless to go into a situation that your chances are, odds are, you are going to lose. Go into that thing giving some jabs and go with confidence, because sometimes you're not going to get that knockout punch until you soften up the target with a few dabs. So
Hmm.
when you feel determination, you're punching and you're finding a way, you're being brave, And sometimes that opening to the victory comes out only after your fearlessness. So that's the kind of message I'd like to leave to the next generation. So
Mhm.
hopefully that gave you a little extra time to.
Yeah, I would say, appreciate appreciate, those who came before you and all of the stories, that they have to tell. Um, Odds are you will relate to a lot of them. I find as I'm like doing this work generationally, things are very repetitive. They're
Right.
just things have been done a different way. People tell
Old
them a
things
different
in new
story.
ways. That's the
Yeah,
secret.
always,
Right.
always. And as I get older too, I find, I relate so much to my parents. And like, as a teenager, you feel so disconnected and they've
Yes.
been there too, and now that I'm older, it's like I just connect with them and I see how similar, you know, our times are or were. And yeah,
Right.
I would say
Right.
that. And then also too, I think just find your passion and you'll find your people, what you're passionate about, like even, what I do with the journalism stuff, when it comes to art, find what you like and just really put your all into it because you really don't know, where it could take you. You could be doing something like this just off of your own interests.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Miss Chanel.
Uh, yeah, I would say for me, the legacy I'd like my work to leave behind is that your uniqueness makes you
Mm,
beautiful. Mm.
powerful stuff. No, 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 and it does make us beautiful. And like I said, the environment that we live in, a lot of kids are not meant. If you're not heard, you don't feel beautiful to be heard. If you're not, if people are not appreciating the accomplishments of your people, you don't feel beautiful. A lot of the African American, like if you look at some of the like Martin Luther King's speeches right before he's like, I'm like, what is he doing? Like, why is he like spending so much time trying to keep the spirits up, tell them that they are beautiful and tell them that they're good, and it's because it's unrelenting. It's in every facet. This hatred towards who we are, fear of what we can do. It's so permeating our society that we do need that message. So thank you so much, Chanel. I'm just like really excited. So we're just about at the end of our program, and I'm going to play our little because there are community screenings out there. That we've got two that we're about to do. Hold on, let me remove this caption. These screenings of our documentary, the Redline Narratives, the Lost Cultural Hubs of Boston. We've got one this Saturday in Dorchester, on Ashton Road. Anyway, you can go to my Eventbrite links and everything on my social media, my Instagram to Afrimerican One to get the information. And I'll play it a little bit of it, and then we'll meet on the other side, and we're going to choose our word. Is it playing? All right, there you go. Boston, Massachusetts, a city of innovation, resilience, and culture. From cobblestone streets that whisper revolutionary tales to the energy of Fenway Park and the legacy of Harvard Square, Boston is more than just a place. It's a symbol of endless possibilities. Boston is a city of many firsts. First subway in the United States, the first public school, the first public park, and the first public library. Boston is also known for its engineering marvels and infrastructure projects. Boston's rich history is woven into its streets, its people, and its culture. That's the Boston you know. But beneath this vibrant exterior lies another story. One of resilience, transformation, and unfortunately, a tremendous amount of loss. Because Americans prior to redlining and urban renewal. All right, I'm not gonna play the whole thing because we are a little behind time, but it's on YouTube. That piece, but like I said, as a community screening, I'm not completely done with it, but I am to the level where I want to get feedback from the community. So please, if you're out, and then we're gonna do another one in Hyde Park on March 1st. So please come out to these screenings, because I did it in the West End. People are like, why are you doing it in the West End? I said, well, if you know the African American history in Boston, it starts in the North End, it goes to the West End. I wanted to do it at African Meeting House, but it cost $37,000, $33,750 for me to
Oh
do it
my
there, and I did it
goodness.
at the West End Museum. Right.
That's
Well,
crazy.
we've been gentrified, and that's a nonprofit
Mm,
price. The the for-profit price is $4,750.
mm,
I was like, man, I want my documentary to be in the place where Frederick Douglass spoke,
mhm,
right? But little did I know, I had been gentrified right out of it, and I think it goes to show how, like, that's a very, like, what it means to be actually removed from your culture. That's our culture. We're not around there. They're not bringing people color right through there. It's the Freedom Trail, and all this other stuff that's being marketed. And there's a lot of money being made, obviously, from that location. But that location is a cultural location for our people. And we don't have much access to it.
mm.
So the story behind there, but do let us. So I hope you guys, anybody can come to the screening. Like I said, I need your input to make it better. But without further ado, it's the moment of truth. So, like I said before, if you missed out the beginning, Rise Above Redlining Portrait Studios Boston, and it's this portrait has been going around the cities, different workshops, and and we've been adding words, right? So these are the words that have been added. We normally do the tradition of speaking out, but we're not going to do it since we're behind time. But I would like you to now let us know what word you're adding to the portrait. Anyone can go first.
Creativity.
Right, that's a good word, because especially on an art piece. So yes, creativity going to the word. And Ebony, what word are you adding to the portrait?
Generational.
Generational. Okay, that's going to be awesome. And this, I've already talked to the National Center for Afro-American Artists. So we're going to try to have it on display in certain locations to not only just display the words and symbolism from all the Bostonians that contributed to this, and at this point it must be over like 350 people that have in all the various different workshops that have contributed to this piece of work. But it's also to start conversation, because this is about moving forward, and we want people to understand that redlining and urban renewal is not a thing of the past. The roads are designed exactly the same way. Access points are designed the same way. Funding, resources, including environmental challenges. It's all based on how our cities are designed. So we want, your words will carry on. Hopefully this portrait will be around for many more years. So thank you so much for your contribution to the word. And yeah, that's basically it. But I mean, if any parting words for the audience before we say sayonara?
Go give someone you love a hug.
Aw.
They need it.
Good one.
Yeah, I support that message.
Right. Ditto that.
Mhm.
So thank you everyone for watching the What We Nurture the Culture to Thrive. Thank you and have a blessed